In this episode, solving quadratic equations by another approach, magic X, coming up. Hey guys, in my previous episode, we did solve quadratic equations by factoring. But the thing is, we considered the case when your leading coefficient is 1. Now, what if is your leading coefficient, that means a number that in front, or coefficient that in front of your x squared term is not equal to 1. There is a special technique, there is a special approach called magic X to solve this type of quadratics. The first thing to start off, you draw two sets of parentheses and you set them equal to 0. Now, we are going to insert x and we have two gaps. We are going to fill out these two gaps with two numbers. Now, the slight difference between when we were solving quadratics when the leading coefficient is 1, that your coefficient in front of x might be not equal to 1. So here I left some space on purpose. So actually we're going to look for another two numbers that gives you this coefficient in front of x. Now, you take your first leading coefficient 2 and you take your last coefficient, namely -3. And you multiply them out. You would get -6. And one thing I would like to point out, that the last coefficient, it's not 3 that many people might think of. It's -3. That's negative has to be taken into consideration. Now, this -6, that number we got by multiplying the leading coefficient and the last coefficient, we're going to place on top of your x. So we draw a big x, huge x, that we're going to use for factoring. Actually, we did factoring of our quadratic. Now, the middle coefficient, which is 5, goes on bottom of your x. Now, we are going to search two numbers that multiply to -6 to that number and simultaneously add up to 5 to the middle coefficient. So once again, we're looking for two numbers, we're after two numbers that their product gets to -6 and their sum gets to 5. So to achieve this, you can list out all factors of -6 and you check all pairs and find out that pair gives you this 5. So in this case, it's gonna be 6 and negative 1. You can also come up with these numbers just by observation, because 6 times negative 1 gives you negative 6, and 6 plus negative 1 gives you 5. Alright, so we draw these two numbers, we write them on either sides of your x. The next step is you want to divide these two numbers by this leading coefficient. Now, you can simplify this your magic x. You simplify x would look like 2 goes into 6 3 times, leaving you 1. I'm going to keep this one on bottom. So this fraction, it's already into its simplest form. I'm going to just rewrite it as is. Now, we're almost there, we're almost done. We're going to take these two fractions and we're going to use them to write your factoring. This bottom number 1 goes as a coefficient in front of x. This 2 goes as a coefficient in front of x. The top number goes as a constant over there, and this negative 1 goes in this place, in this placeholder, as a constant for the second parenthesis. We're done with factoring at this stage, and I would suggest you to check your factoring. You can check out your factoring, you can verify this by just multiplying and foiling things out, and make sure that you would get back your original equation, your original actually left side. So you can do it even mentally. So x times 2x gives you 2x squared, x times negative 1 becomes negative x, 3 times 2x gives you 6x, and you subtract x, it becomes 5x, and finally 3 times negative 1 gives you negative 3. So it does work, it does check out. Moving on. Now I'm going to clean up these parentheses and rewrite it, just leaving this one and pulling this negative over there. So it becomes now keep going. We have two parentheses multiplied together and equals 0. So what we are going to do, we are going to pull them separately down below and solve separately for x, each of these two linear equations. So you set basically the first term, the first factor equals to 0, and you set the second factor equal to 0. Pull them out down below, and you want to solve them separately. So you came up with two linear equations for x, they're kind of basic. You want to just for the first one get x alone on the left side, or make x as a subject of the formula. So to achieve this, you just subtract 3. You take away 3 from both sides. 3 goes away. And you are left with x equals -3. In the same way, you move this one by adding 1 to both sides. So do the same thing to both sides to keep it balanced. So in the next line it becomes 2x equals just 1. And now you are looking for x. You want to get x alone. So to achieve this, anything that attach your x, just divide out, get rid of this. So in this case, you divide both sides by 2. This 2 goes away. And you will be left with x equals 1/2. So your x comes out to be a half. Now we're done. This is your two roots or solution for your quadratic equation. Now, always keep in mind that because you have a quadratic, so the highest power, the greatest power of x that appears, that shows up in your quadratic is 2. That's why basically name implies itself. Now, always keep in mind that because it's quadratic, you have to come up with 2 solutions or 2 roots. Now, my bonus tip here is check out, verify your solutions. You can do it mentally just by substituting, by plugging in your -3.5 into your original equation. And make sure it does work, it verifies. Because, you know, so much, to be perfectly frank with you, so much nitty-gritty, so much things to do when you multiply numbers, when you are looking for these 2 numbers, when you are list out factors, and actually honestly list goes on when you solve these linear equations, plus minus, so it might be little silly errors, you know, something with signs and blah blah blah, stuff like this. So just to make sure that you got the correct answer, just insert them, put them into your original equation and check to see. Yes, I know, it's tedious. It's maths, it's algebra. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope it helps you out. I know everyone hates maths, but if you like my video, please click like, share with your friends, leave the comment down below, and smash that subscribe so you will not miss out my new release.